Normandy is only a few hours away from Paris, so we did a day trip there as we felt it was only right to pay our respects to those valiant soldiers who fought for our freedom in World War II. It was a truly sobering day, and it gave us a better picture of what those individuals faced on June 6, 1944. We'll share the places we visited, so let's get started. To prepare for our visit, we read the book The Longest Day by Cornelius Ryan. The book provided a detailed account of the events during the D-Day invasion from both the Allied and Axis forces' point of view. The book helped set the stage for what we would see and give it better context. If not this book, I would suggest brushing up on history to make the visit more meaningful. We booked a tour with Blue Fox Travel. From Paris, it's a 3-hour ride to Normandy, so we had an early start to our day. We walked 15 minutes from the hotel to get to our meeting point, one of the streets right off the circle of the Arc de Triomphe. We snapped some amazing views of the monument, illuminated in the early morning light. We knew we were getting close when we came upon this memorial to General Eisenhower, the supreme Allied commander for the invasion of Normandy. The memorial is near Caen, France. Our first stop was a German defense battery at Lons-sur-Mer. The battery is located on a 200-foot cliff overlooking the Baie de Seine and formed one of Germany's Atlantic Wall coastal fortifications. This defense position was used to protect the Lons-sur-Mer from aerial bombardments. It posed a threat to the Allied forces landing on those beaches and the naval forces in the area. Each of the 4 casemates, or bunkers, at Lons-sur-Mer consisted of 400 cubic meters of concrete and 4 tons of metal reinforcements. The casemates were partially buried under a thick layer of earth in order to absorb the shock waves from enemy fire. The whole construction was also covered in camouflage nets fixed to iron hooks that can still be seen today. Lastly, camouflage paint was used to blend the casemates into the surrounding landscape. Driving through the area, it's hard to believe this picturesque countryside was the center of a great military battle, given its green canola fields and modern housing. These villages also have several historical structures still remain. One of which is the Church of Notre Dame in Colleville-sur-Mer near Omaha Beach. This church was partly destroyed in June 1944 and has been faithfully restored as the original church and tower date back to the 12th century. The left photo shows the church after it was repeatedly bombed in World War II, and the right photo shows the refurbished church as it stands today. This Colleville-sur-Mer war memorial was built to honor the casualties from the First World War. After 1945, the names of the casualties from the Second World War were added to the memorial. We spent a little over an hour visiting the Overlord Museum, aptly named after the D-Day mission, whose ticketed entry was included in our tour price. The museum provides you with an immersive experience in this massive military operation by recreating historical events. So let's take a peek at some of the vignettes we saw. The machinery of war. Here's a Sherman tank, which was really only considered a medium-sized tank, and it could be fired at the enemy while in motion. Its superiority and swift replacement in combat ensured the tank had a dominant position on the battlefield and was no match for the German Panther or Tiger tanks. And outside the museum are several American tanks, a German anti-aircraft gun, and a Bailey Bridge, which is a portable prefabricated bridge. The M10 fighter shown here took advantage of its speed and agility to counter German tactics and destroy tanks. There were also several scenes depicting the American beach landings, infantrymen, tanks, and naval support. Getting supplies to the troops was also an important part of the D-Day invasion. This six-wheel amphibious vehicle was used for unloading ships and crossing rivers and lakes. It was widely used for both supplies and troops, as it could carry 25 soldiers and ferry wounded combatants back to the hospital ships. The museum also captured German war scenes, such as this group of soldiers who were making their way through the ruins of the martyred town of Mortain. Hitler ordered a counterattack of Mortain, which was quickly stopped by the Allied fighter-bombers. Scattered throughout the museum are somber reminders that World War II was fought by people in the trenches, as personal photos, medals, and damaged helmets are on display. We then stood on Omaha Beach. It was one of the two American beachheads attacked on D-Day. Units of the U.S. 29th and 1st Infantry Divisions led the raid. However, many of these soldiers drowned during the approach from the ships offshore or were killed by the German troops placed on the cliffs that surrounded the beach. Looking east on Omaha Beach, you can see the towering cliffs which were fortified by the German troops, and that there was very little shelter for the attacking soldiers. Imagine how the U.S. Army Rangers scaled these beaches' cliffs with the goal of silencing the German batteries. The western third of Omaha Beach was backed by a seawall 10 feet high, and the whole beach was overlooked by cliffs 30 meters high. Besides the German artillery, the waters and the beach were filled with buried mines. It must have been daunting for the troops to get through and survive these many obstacles. We simply drove past the Brave sculpture, a tribute to the Allies that landed on Omaha Beach. The sculpture consists of three elements. One, the wings of hope that remind us that together it is possible to change the future. Two, rise, freedom, for those who rose against barbarity. And three, the wings of fraternity that remind us of our responsibility towards others as well as ourselves. Another monument on Omaha Beach behind the Brave sculptures bears a simple message. The Allied forces landing on this shore, which they call Omaha Beach, liberate Europe, June 6, 1944. A stop for a tasty lunch at the D-Day Cafe on the edge of Omaha Beach. Lunch was not included in the tour's price. We also visited the Cidre Boucher and Cabaldos cider facility and tasted 4 distinct types of cider, from non-alcoholic to 42% proof. We then drove westward to a German defense battery at Point du Hoc, located between Omaha and Utah Beach. It was here we saw a captured German 155 millimeter gun hidden in the bushes that fired against the enemy at sea. It has a range of about 13 miles. As we walked to the German defense post, we passed through a field of bomb craters. The coastline is filled with these craters created from shells that were shot from the American warships. It may be hard to see, but many craters were 10 to 15 feet deep. The earth is still pockmarked 80 years after these craters were made. A view of the cliffs between Utah and Omaha beaches. Very little shelter for the attacking troops and very well defended by the Germans. Here's the German casemate. Views from both inside and outside looking to the sea. We could then see how the Germans manned the station and the impact of Allied fire on it. Inside, there is a plaque honoring the 2nd Ranger Battalion casualties from the D-Day attack. This battalion scaled these cliffs to neutralize the German artillery positions that threatened the invasion. Despite facing heavy resistance, these Rangers successfully captured their objective and held it until relieved. Our last stop was the Normandy American Cemetery, where more than 9,000 soldiers are buried. The cemetery also includes a Wall of the Missing memorial, which lists 1,557 names of those who lost their lives during the Normandy campaign and yet can't be found or identified. Normandy also has individual cemeteries for British, Canadian, and even German casualties. Omaha Beach lies directly below the Normandy American Cemetery. There's a path from the cemetery that leads down to the beach. On that path, you'll pass by the remains of various German defense artifacts. The cemetery also includes a small chapel to honor these soldiers. The top dome depicts the Goddess of Liberty, representing America, who blesses her rifle-bearing son before he departs to fight overseas. Above him, a warship and a bomber push through the sea and air toward land on the opposite side of the dome. There, a red-capped Mary Ann figure, personifying France, bestows a laurel wreath upon the same young man. His now lifeless body leans against her as she cradles his head in her lap. Above them, the return of peace is illustrated with an angel, a dove, and a homeward-bound ship. This is the cemetery's main entrance when looking from the burial gardens. There is a pool of reflection, and it includes the sculpture of the Spirit of the American Youth Rising from the Waves that commemorates the American soldiers who died during World War II. As our day in Normandy was winding down, we witnessed the daily 5 p.m. remembrance ceremony. Here, the American flag is lowered and respectfully folded to honor the casualties of war. Our final stop was at the stone marker of the time capsule that was planted in 1969. It honors the memory of General Eisenhower and the forces under his command. The capsule contains news reports of the June 6, 1944 Normandy landings from the newsmen who were there. Our visit to Normandy was a sobering reminder of the human cost of World War II. Operation Overlord, or D-Day, was the beginning of the end of the war and an Allied victory for freedom. I hope you found the video helpful and will make it on your must-see list if you're visiting France. Thanks for watching.